You were born on a battlefield. Now, see where this long war began and where it ends. Israel. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert and special guest Carl Teichrieb in the Holy Land this October, where you'll see things like this. While editing this video, we stumbled onto something that surprised us. Not only because we hadn't expected to find it, but because apparently only one other person we know of has found this so far. And it's been there on the land for at least 6,000 years, something like that?
In fact, when you found it, you hollered for me, Sharon, get in here. You have to see this. Because when you see this, dear friends, dear viewers, your mouths are going to drop open and you're going to wonder, why has no one else seen this? Well, we only now and today have satellite imagery, and to really perceive it, you need to be very high up. Planes don't fly over that area because it's a stone's throw from Syria.
I stumbled onto this site while looking for a Google Earth image of Gilgal Refaim. So I brought up the picture, looked at it, did a screen capture, which you'll see on the screen here. But look just to the north of Gilgal Refaim, well, serpentine feature on the landscape.
It is startling, and we have read a few papers that indicate this is a natural lava formation. Let's assume they're right. It's still called Bashan, which it essentially means place of the serpent.
That's correct. This is in the middle of the ancient kingdom of Og, and for some reason, and now I'll superimpose a map that was developed by an archaeologist of megalithic burials in the area. And you'll see that the vast majority of them are clustered right on top of that mound, as well as several Chalcolithic dwellings. This is why the scholars have redated the construction of Gilgal Refaim from the Bronze Age, which is roughly 3100 BC to about the time of the Exodus, the beginning of the Iron Age, around 1200 BC or thereabouts. Back to the Chalcolithic period, because there weren't enough Bronze Age villages or settlements in the area to account for the number of man-hours it took to move the 40,000 tons of rock to create Gilgal Refaim.
Exactly. We're talking about men who would no longer be guarding their homes, who would have to be fed and watered.
There was a complex civilization with a ruling authority who could make people go out and build this thing. What's even more interesting is that they found a wall to the south and west that appears to be even larger than Gilgal Refaim and apparently was dismantled. The stones taken from the older, bigger wall to create Gilgal Refaim. Now bear in mind, the Great Serpent Mound here in the United States is about 1,100 feet long. When you run Google's measuring tool on Google Maps across this thing from tip to tip, it is about 3,700 feet. So it's more than 3 times longer, almost 3/4 of a mile. And it's about 20 to 25 feet above the surrounding plain. The Serpent Mound in Ohio is only 2 to 4 feet above the plain, above the surrounding terrain. So, and that has been dated by scholars to about the 4th century BC, about the time that Alexander the Great was conquering the lands around ancient Israel. Now, this Chalcolithic mound, based on the dating of the settlements and the tombs on top of it, is at least 3,000 years older. To put this in the context of some sort of timing, we would place this after the Tower of Babel, so well after the flood of Noah and after the Tower of Babel, but long before the arrival in Canaan of Abraham, which was somewhere after 1900 BC. I put that about 1876 BC in my timeline. And by the way, we have to give credit where it's due. The one person we know of who has noticed this and written about it is Doug Van Dorn, and he's the author of a book called Giants, Sons of the Gods. He noticed it on Google Earth back in 2013, but really didn't make a big fuss about it. Apparently, this has really not been noticed before, but it seems that this is at least one possible explanation for the naming of this land in the shadow of Mount Hermon, which is plainly visible from the central core of Gilgal Refaim, Bashan, the place of the serpent.
Exactly.
Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert and special guest, researcher, author, and lecturer Carl Teichrieb in Israel, October 19th through 30th, 2025. This is not the typical tour of Israel. For information and to reserve your place on the 2025 Gilbert House Tour of Israel, please log on to gilberthouse.org/travel. That's gilberthouse.org/travel.